Holiness the Dalai Lama. It's really a beautifully, I saw it a couple of weeks ago, beautifully produced film by Richard Gere. That's going to be showing at the Hamilton Cinema. So that's on our website for those of you who are local. And we will have a couple of people there with a booth. So it would really be great to see people there who are interested. So that's the first thing. The next thing, apart from that, is that on the 21st of December, will be the next installment of the Chakrasamvara commentary. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I've forgotten. I don't think so. So that's everything for the next couple of weeks and through to Christmas time, and then that retreat on the 27th, 28th, and 29th. So all that being said, let me go and invite Geshe, and we'll get started in 2 or 3 minutes. Feel free to grab yourself a cup of tea or coffee. Sorry, I did forget one thing. So we have now more busy family people that are joining these sessions on Sunday. And Geshe got a couple of queries from people like, I can't stay the whole time, is that a problem? So Geshe and I spoke about this, and we'll maybe even publish a little blurb, but we wanted to say, come as you are, guilt-free for Sunday. So of course it is excellent to stay for the whole session. You'll get profound imprints of Buddhist philosophy. You might not understand everything right away, but trust me, it does go in there and ruminate, and it will come to fruition. But if you are busy, if you are tired and you would just like to do the meditation, you're most welcome. And if you would like to do the meditation and the class, but you don't have time to hang around for questions, that's okay too. If you're super keen and want to stay for the whole thing, I rejoice, and that is also welcome. So just to let people know, you know, we can do what we can in this busy world. And I will stop nattering now and invite Geshe down. How about now? Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. And let's just do a sound check for Geshe. Can you hear Geshe as well? Okay, great. So we are good to go.
다 강가타시 델레도 다루로 소소더니 야지 분로시기로 아침모였어.
So first of all, Tashi Dele, greetings to all, and Geshe hopes that all of your positive activities are going well.
다 간조 아니 다 드는데 왔어. 다 손지가 깔아 줘대. 나는 쳇라 타벨로데 타바 롤러로 알시바치 세이테 간조 간된 무지 베제도 그야레스.
So Geshe just reminding you of that famous saying of the Buddha, which is, I have pointed out the path to liberation for you, but it is you yourself who must actualize that. And actually, this saying is something very key, it's something very important, and we should repeat it to ourselves like a mantra.
다 니깔 기보 용도 마요. 다 대시 템보 용도 마요. 아니 답이 대시나 용도 마요 세하데 젠다 스질이요. 말 소질라 발요 알세요레스.
And what this tells us in essence is when we speak about happiness, those fleeting forms of happiness, the longer term temporary forms of happiness, and even ultimate happiness and satisfaction. These are all things that we have to achieve ourselves through our own endeavor.
어때래? 근데 당아로서 다 레카 체크가 다 쉐바보 쪼든 아로서 어느 셈테레스.
And also to understand that in terms of all of this, the main doer, the main agent is our mind itself.
당아로서 다딘니까를 세 코로 코인내를 요아래 되니 이나요. 코이 그 시에 차 롱지 매도 빼만 노지 코이 롱지 마키바 시에 마키바지래 요아레스.
So our mind, of course, is in samsara. It is within this experience of samsara. But with cultivation, it's like that classic example of the lotus, right? That can rise from the muddy swamp, blossom above the water, and have its petals completely unsullied. If we train our mind, it can become like that.
매도 빼마 코시에사데 할레베 사자 조본라고 지는라 코용게 할 때는 이나요. 거기 롱질로 조지 죽게 롱질로 요 말이스.
And this is the amazing quality of the lotus, isn't it, right? It grows in kind of the muddiest, dirtiest water. When its flowers blossom, they are beautiful and completely untouched by any of that filth.
당아로서 코알 대요 비까 다 가디나이 다 멀하라 뭐 당연수서 가와이나이 지바레 세 여보데 롱지 요사테 코이네를 요아레스.
And so, just to be clear also, when we talk about the different types of beings, whether we're a human, a deva, or in the lower realms as an animal, as a hungry ghost, or as a hell being, these realms and their experiences are different, but they are all samsaric realms.
다 이나요 코로그 롱질 니네를 파카제 제제바 이나 롱질로 코츠마지레 마도 롱질로 뒤자되는 요 말이스.
And all of Karerangjin,
세 롱질로
and the mind, right, is within those bodies of beings, those experiences. But the mind's ultimate nature is not those difficult experiences or impurities. The mind's nature is luminous and pure.
간도 실로 추고는 돈을 전전도 아이네 사자기고 가와 간다만다 가와 도 아이나 손sol로 먼저다 잡았더니 뭐 어떻게 용도 왔어 대노지 로보아지 권요다 치고
So these problems, they are adventitious, right? They are temporary. They are not necessarily part of the mind. So we can think of the mind as this happy, pure thing, and these problems as these temporary things they meet. It's like when you go to your favorite place on holiday, or you go to your favorite shop, and normally you enjoy yourself, but sometimes you encounter a really unpleasant person who kind of taints the experience. So it's a little bit like that.
다 서서 놀아요 저절 끝내는 잡았더니 그지
You could also think of it as like kind of that guest who you invited into your home, but they never leave. The adventitious stains are a bit like that.
다 대노지 세 강가 세 끝낸다고 지래 마도 누가 강가 걸어서 땐데 데키더래요 말이스.
So, you know, these difficult things, they are guests in the mind, right? They are adventitious and they cause us problems, but they are not there permanently because they are not the mind's true nature.
어때래 다 땐데 내 토게 때려서 야가 조절해서 얘네서는 좀봐 니지 제바 다 시라 대지 강가 얘네 코로 땐데 내 토게 다 색으로 버려야
So those are temporary. But positive qualities like love, like patience, and especially like wisdom, these can actually be the permanent occupants of our mind, because these minds can be perfected.
다 던지지 다 보게 세 내철 이넬 내철 요 이자 타바 롤로 알리 사데다 지세 템보 요아레스.
And it is because that is the mind's true nature that the Buddha could say, in truth, in confidence, right, you must actualize your own liberation.
어다 손지 걸어 있는 지세 도마 있는 다 어다 자와숑바 가 코로스 강가 동봉간수 지바 지조레디 와스.
These beings who are now Tara, who are now Buddha Shakyamuni, who are now Maitreya, they all have a history where they started out as an ordinary being just like us.
어다 나조 노지가 로조시 뇨레시 다름바시도 옆에 바치레 데이자다 나로슬 테마 지테리 하레스.
And like us, at a certain point they started studying, they started practicing, they brought forth sustained effort in that, and through this they experienced the result of enlightenment. That's how it works.
어다 치료전다 얘는 수징 아로슬 요아르 수징 엄머신이 되대 요아레사 데트노 데지테 자기 요아레스.
And so some schools of Buddhism, right, other schools of Buddhism, they say that we already have the Buddha within us. It's just that we don't see it, right? We might not agree with that to the letter, but in spirit, this makes a lot of sense.
어다 데이자트니스 야세 ngoteni 다 수징 ngoteni 다 봐야 이런들 야분도 신도기 계셔라스.
And so then in those schools, right, they talk about pointing out the nature of the mind. And when you point out the nature of the mind, because the Buddha is already there, you're pointing out to the person their enlightenment, right? So this is how that works in some of those traditions.
단적인데 단적인데 와다 알레 가는 가서 보게 다 보게 가르쳐 가르. 여보 진도하셔 봐라 다 리세 쇼와 럼바 돈보네 들다 리세 쇼와 들레지 템보고 요아레스.
So in order to kind of set the mind in that way, we're going to take a moment to do a meditation and calm the mind.
마르테스 그 가르 메디테이션 도모데지.
Sorry, sorry, I just want to ask something because I'm only seeing it now that I look at the TV. Am I zoomed out a little bit too far? Would it be better to zoom in a little more? I think so. You're seeing too much of the room. It's maybe distracting. Sorry, just forgive me for a moment. And it was a little bit selfish too. I don't want you to see how disorganized I am with my cluttered papers. That's better. Okay.
다 럼바 도모타 가로서 가라하고 가르세나 가로서 아니 세게 지스노. 아고서와
Semgi Jesudro.
다 세게 다 레카치케레스. 요보도와.
So when we look at our current situation, we could say we are followers of the mind, right? We are kind of servants. Wherever the mind leads us or tells us where to go, this is where we end up.
다 세대 이게 다 이대 조레스. 세세는 자 이대 조르와스.
And the mind, when we speak of the mind itself, the mind is consciousness, right?
다 이대 콜헬레 맞춰아데 쇼와 맞춰아데 조 운신가가 나조 메가 통세 그 쇼스도. 운신가 여러와.
And when the mind is untamed, when the consciousness is unsettled, what happens is the consciousness is always drawn to, always going out the five sense doors, right? Eye, nose, ear, and so forth.
미가 통셀로 주도체 아니 다 저마카 다코셀로 주도체 아니 저마카 아니 좋아 강가로 아니 디슈스 로데바이나 가디이나 이들레 저기요 말세요.
If we sort of allowed this status quo to stand, right? If we never question this and the mind always goes to the sights, always goes to the sounds, always goes to the tastes and so forth, it is said that we will never experience mental peace.
코로스로 다 레빈데 내려서 주도 잡았다 이 노지도 요 말했더니 코로스 통화라 때네 다 이거 보게래가 뭐 지은 거 알아봤어.
So it's not that those sense consciousness are going 양결승당 세부면도.
서서 야바셔서 우싱하는데 머리 데진데에서 코 손으로 도야도 요 말아봤어.
알레 로스로스.
다이나 세 디쇼는 돈에 세가 손은 뭐 돈에. 전에 너도 모르는 돈에 더 강해지기 알아.
So to be clear, these sense doors and the sense consciousnesses themselves, they don't say this person, that thing, this happened and so forth. But what happens is when the mind is constantly going to them for information, it starts to build that story. It starts to have those concerns and worries. And this is what causes it to become unsettled.
Deve yetenga sigures, and deve yetenga shulun donilla, tanita yilla, but ye the tea shulun do, tanik or not momochariares.
이당샘 개발 가르여래 된식 말이래.
Yido sechi by inayon, ushing ayara,
Yeah,
ushing at the maravata,
야, 남실랍나 되기로와. consultate 세월에.
no she being me no she read.
알레 러스. 야, 연결승당?
Tatanda says I is at another each but sigurawas.
Yeah.
The murder, the chalare, so not to talk it.
So the mind consciousness, the mental consciousness is the one that can think and differentiate and designate, right? This is a person, this is a thing, and so forth. And they do you
And
the 5 qualities of the desire realm, these are the sights, smells, tastes, and so forth, that the mind is attracted to through the mental consciousness. So these 5 qualities of the desire realm, of course, these are things that we need to experience to be happy and healthy to a certain degree. But the problem is that the more that we engage with pleasant tastes, sights, sounds, and so forth, we'll never reach a feeling of satisfaction. We'll never reach a feeling of being full. And this dissatisfaction is something that is very unsettling.
This one,
Yeah, sorry. Not a comfortable seat today, just put it aside. So if we want to touch the nature of our fundamental mind, the first step is to kind of decrease that engagement with the coarse sense consciousnesses, right? So don't pay attention also to the objects that activate those sense consciousnesses like sights, smells, sounds, and so forth. Try not to pay them too much mind. And so, it's not that the objects themselves can say, we're not going to disturb that person, right? The sounds or the tastes. We have to make that decision, right? I'm not going to just always be engaging with that. Yila? Right. Dusumrwa. Adepa tandao maumba. And so, let's assume that we had some success with this. We decreased the mental traffic coming through those sense consciousnesses, and now we're left with the mind itself. But there can still also be distractions there. We call these distractions the 3 times, the thoughts of the past, present, and future. And so we see, right, that ruminating about the past, if we look at it realistically, ruminating about the past is a source of a lot of our mental projections and difficulties. So we want to set aside thoughts of the past. And if we set aside those thoughts of the past, right, what we'll see is that a lot of the mental traffic calms down, and we'll immediately feel kind of a sense of relaxation and joy, actually. And the other one, of course, is the future in which we place anxieties, hopes, and fears, right? We all experience that. So slowly, we want to be able to let go of those thoughts of the future as well, right? We won't just be able to set them aside automatically. We have to work on it. And slowly, like a gentle breeze, those clouds of those future thoughts about the future will part from the mind. And when we clear away the thoughts of the future and the past, it's not immediately an awareness of the presence that we focus on. It will at first appear as if the mind is completely empty of thought whatsoever. That's what we'll experience.
tumbandawo sel tan tatawa chipolo tono trege de tumbandawo je sel shayung ge arte te khashege tumbani re sono toren go khondro ge te tumbani re mare se gare.
So there's this absence of thought, which we could call the empty mind. But this absence of thought, this empty mind, is not emptiness itself. And there's a lot of confusion, right? A lot of mistaken views about that. But it is not emptiness itself. And many scholars advise us to be aware of that. So this mind, empty of thoughts, right? It is still a relative phenomenon, right? As we know, emptiness is ultimate truth, so it's an experience of something relative, which is quite far away from the emptiness which is ultimate truth. But sometimes people mistake that mind empty of thought for emptiness. Satsam risamsana? Ale. Ale, Ale, yeah. And then, as we come out of sort of this state of total absence of thought with a little bit more awareness, we can see how the mind has these qualities of clear and knowing. We'll appreciate that it is clear and knowing. So if we talk about pointing out the nature of the mind, this is one way to do that, right? To point out its clear and knowing aspect. So the mind has no shape, it has no color, it is merely clear and knowing, like a mirror that can reflect myriad objects. So just emptying the mind of thoughts, this is not emptiness. Some people take that experience to be emptiness, but many holy beings have advised that this can be dangerous, that one should not do that. So a little bit too much of a introduction maybe, but let us now go to the next steps of the teaching. So the first step is that we want to place the mind and body in a state of relaxation to be able to touch peace. The mind, like a monkey climbing from branch to branch, it goes from thought to thought. We want to sort of stop this from happening and try to still the mind to the best of our ability. These 5 sense consciousnesses, whatever 5 sense objects of the desire realm they are drawn to, we're going to try not to follow that. We're going to try not to pay any attention to that. Any thoughts of the past, any regrets of the past, I'm also not going to dwell on those. I'm not going to give them any thought. I'll let them go.
zumazogi sompachi.
Thoughts about the future, the plans, the hopes, the anxieties, and the fears. Likewise, I will not pay those any mind, I will let them go.
Sel tumban rabo kayung bo ta lele. Oh, ta yabo chis zoko yares.
The mind is empty of these thoughts. It is relaxed. I can appreciate its vastness.
Kale tatari se rong la tawa yuna tane sazo rizo saji riba melung nuji oda zuma oda trichi rongni li o sompachi.
As all of this distraction parts away, I touch the fundamental qualities of the mind. It is clear and knowing. It is like a mirror that can reflect any object of knowledge.
Medo pema thongwa noji ta tandri se del tane tani deva yina gawachi mato ta kange goyo ndu somando ji ko yares.
We want to have this thought that although we are within samsara, when we touch this fundamental nature of the mind, it is like that white lotus blooming above the muddy water. It is completely untouched by stain.
Nagi no dawashawa noji chi to ta dawasha sunan ta mba kanga pasewa noji mari ba kanga pa sumazo toya ta tindriga rongja suma yapochi.
The nature of the mind is like a beautiful, pure, white moon. The way the moonlight can illuminate our path even in darkness, the luminosity of our mind can clear away any ignorance, any unknowingness.
Ngiye netsula tindriji ya isa tambo di nipa di tsa mene ruru soso ga ta se goshe ni mari pa kanga pa tsumazo ga tani tela tene ta ye kange ga tani mari pa cha tu chipa ta tsumazo ga somachi.
Tapping into this real nature, the way it really is, its ultimate mode of abiding of this fundamental mind, we can clear away ignorance and we can activate its vast potential. If we do this, then we can also help others to dispel the ignorance from their minds.
Teta yungwa chita, soma nuji yungwa chita, sunje to jawa sito chipalata, sowa tsechi tita yo, ota tani shilo yungwa chis.
In order to be able to achieve this, to actualize this, exactly as I hope, with single-pointed focus and devotion, I will make requests to the holy beings, the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, for their blessings. So we'll start on page 1. Tumba chom den de jin she ba dra chom ba yan da ba zo be sang ge re ba dan
shabsu demba dewar shepa jiten gemba kebuduwe kalo gyurwa lana meba ladamin hangi temba sangye chomdende pe jawa shagya tubala chazelo chede gyabzuji Temba chondende dijin sheba drachomba yandaba zobe sangye sheba dan shabsu demba dewa sheba jiden chemba chebu duye kalo jorwa lana meba ladami nangi temba sangye chondende pe jawa shagya tubala chazelo chede gyabzuji Temba chomdende dijin sheba drachomba yandaba zobe sangye jeba dan shabsu demba dewa sheba jiten chemba chebu duwe kalo jorwa lana meba ladami nangi temba sangye chomdende pe jawa shagya tubala chazelo chede gyabzu chi
Short mandala.
So ji pege je me do jo je ja lin je ne de gyamba de sangye jin de me de bo wa de jo ku nanda je la che pa sho yi dam guru ratna mendala gam niryata yami
Refuge and bodhicitta.
Chedan sogi chenam la jangchu badu dani gyabzu chi dagi chenyen gibe sunam ge jola penje sangi joba sho Chedan sogi chenam la jangchu badu dani gyabzu chi dagi chenyen gibe sunam ge jola penje sangi joba sho Chedan sogi chenam la jangchu badu dani gyabzu chi dagi chenyen gibe senam ge jola penjir sangye droba sho
야, 다 도단이 그 샤와니 세도 용인 주에서 총한테 다 땜보 그거야. 이다 디그레스.
So the activities at the beginning of the session, the activities at the end of a session that is complete in the preliminaries, in the middle, in the actual session, in the conclusion, this is very important.
다 저도 세 콤비지선 그거야래. 다 나도 게이쇼를 콤바 다 할레비 땜보 메나 이니메드 어즈자는 간저 사세다니 지소 그거야래.
So one thing to know about the mind is it tends to go in whatever direction it is habituated to. So as a practitioner, if we see that our mind is not habituated into going into a wholesome, into a virtuous direction, then we have to practice setting the mind, placing the mind in that direction.
다시 또 개와도 뭐 개와니까 그것도 지바레도 왔어. 용인 주에서 총아서 뭐 개와를 이나요 마소나 그것도 지금 저기야 말이야. 저도 지바레스.
And when we speak about the potentiality of activities being heavy because of being complete in the beginning, the middle, and the end, we should clarify that that's not just for wholesome activities. Unwholesome things also do not become complete if they don't have all three in place.
pena nyepa chenpo ta nyepa chenpo chi peja ba ina mase banda wo chi peja ba ina ota sende mene sewa to no ne sewa to hakasara o
No ne sewa,
o ta deba yo ne se bar ji ta halebe nyepa cheju ta halebe chenpo yo ares.
So let's take the most unwholesome action we could think of, which is killing a human being. Whether that becomes a complete karma of killing depends upon various factors. So if you kill someone accidentally, if you kill someone due to not being of sound mind, if there are these kind of mitigating factors in place, the karma of killing is not complete. And then intention is a key part too. Putting the discussion of human beings aside, whenever we walk, it's sure, right, sometimes we're unaware, but we're killing small insects, small creatures beneath our feet. We can't say that there is no karma to that, but we can say that because there's no intention at all whatsoever behind that, the unwholesome karma that's accumulated is something very light, right? And so when karmas become complete, this really depends on the action being complete in the beginning, the middle, and the end. So with wholesome or virtuous karmas, one type of wholesome or virtuous karma, if it's not complete in the beginning, the middle, and the end, in terms of the cause, how does that impact the result? Well, for example, the resultant happiness, it could be short-lived, right? Or incomplete, or something like that. So why did we want to mention this here? Also because it connects with habituation, right? Because we are habituated to unwholesome actions, it's not very difficult to have those unwholesome actions complete in the beginning, the middle, and the end. So when we think about our mind, one way we can kind of conceptualize it is as a beautiful, vast field, right? And that beautiful, vast field is neutral in nature. You could plant any seed within it. Yeah, yeah. And the tough point here with the mind being like this, although it has a tremendous potential, the danger is you can plant negative seeds or positive seeds within it, right? Both can be planted in this mind. Yeah. So it's like we can think of our mind as a very loyal friend that is going to follow wherever we guide it, right? So if we plant those negative seeds, it will go in that direction. If we plant those positive seeds, it will go in that direction. If we plant the seeds of poisonous plants in our mind, right, we will reap a harvest of poison. If we plant the seeds of medicinal plants in our mind, we will reap a harvest of medicine. And so really understanding the nature of the mind and practicing according to that, this is a really important point of cultivation. It's something that even those who are already bodhisattvas practice. Yep. Right. Yeah. And so the bodhisattvas, Geshe's not filling in the blanks for me today, just giving me little pieces and I have to put it together. I need a raise, I'm just kidding. So then in terms of the bodhisattvas, right, they are understanding this, right, and they cultivate their activities in ways that are very complete in the beginning, the middle, and the end, right? And this leads to that stable, lasting happiness. So then, sorry about that. So we are going to take a moment, maybe a little bit too much in terms of the preliminary remarks, and we are going to take a moment to establish our motivation.
어다 좋아도 되는 가리 이나 주와지 찬요마 달래래 용그래 손바지.
So we hold the body straight. When we hold the body straight, the chakras, the energy channels are straight. When the energy channels are straight, then the prana, the winds, can move freely and the mind can easily be calmed.
주와지 찬요마 tellatene ta lead 아니 대화다 세우 그용보 나를 문다와 달래래 저와야 보여.
By bringing this into balance, the four elements are in balance. When the four elements are in balance, the body feels at ease. The mind feels vast and peaceful.
tani se biwodun dawate ta korupge kawa taba nuji se mipa ul rung tani ta is.
So thinking of the mind as a monkey and wanting the monkey to stay in one place, we gently tie him to a pillar of mindfulness. Place your mindfulness awareness on the breath.
se ungol lele jabayina ane je kola yuchudo machena ta nya chujindawo chomebi sowa no do leba yina koruso yandawa mato nibamandis.
If we're able to maintain our mindfulness awareness on the rising and falling of the breath, even if other thoughts start to arise in the mind, by not paying them any heed, they will be like tiny minnows swimming beneath the surface of the ocean. They won't be disturbing the surface of the water.
uchimbo lelechine chite teziko astone pates uchimbo chine temasum.
So what we want to do 3 times is we want to take a deep inhalation, hold it for a moment, exhale, hold it for a moment, and inhale again, a total of 3 times.
maybe chowa no do maybe ta se shawa tingbo lele yo sombaji.
In this way, any unhelpful or distracting thoughts, any worries or projections, I've been able to clear those away and place the mind in relaxed peace.
Se ya bote ta pa ngo te gewa to chesu chi ngo lo ya jogi sombaji.
So, seeing the nature of the fundamental mind, I will try to realize its ultimate essence.
Rong ye donan ro ri chu ge sen ji yu zul kang ni ka kang o ta koi kang kanga te zo zo de ta ye ri cha du la te ni shu de ta te me ba chi so ko du sombaji.
In the field of this fundamental mind, bring forth the thought of all sentient beings. Their inability to experience both temporary and ultimate happiness arises from the biased mind that holds some beings close and others distant. How wonderful if all sentient beings could be parted from this biased mind that holds some close and others distant. May they be parted from this mind. I myself alone will part them from the biased mind that holds some close and others distant. In my current state, I'm not able to actualize this wish to free beings from the biased mind holding some close and others distant. Only a Buddha is able to guide beings most effectively to this realization. Therefore, I must actualize within the self, within that I call the I, the state of complete and perfect Buddhahood, in order to benefit sentient beings. Bring forth bodhicitta. So we'll pause there. So in this way we have established the motivation, and now we need to turn to the text for the instructions on the stages to train the mind to actually reach that enlightenment.
Oda opashi sunji suisayo oda kala nojido mandawaji war ser kala le yungres.
So kala nangjin dang mandrasana kare.
Ya nojid kecha do mandawa ta dis tembochi yungres kala laja.
Yeah, so the Geshe said some advice in this part of the text, beautiful sort of foods of advice from the Buddha. Okay.
Otan dek nina sene go rong jato kandisi yime ngor dian reji jagi war ta kaze tata ro so so ta yonyo ni ta tembochi yoku yares.
And so as we come to this part of the text, and I believe we're on page 17 or 18, what we're going to come to is the Buddha's instructions for the actual way to meditate, how to actually meditate. And these instructions are very precise and very profound. So there's something that ideally we'll want to read again and again.
Oda pel yina yo ta la mandra mambo yo ai ta tendiga ta go no atni mambo nyasa mambo leva ita tendiga sanso chila ta de zombar was.
And so this text was kind of compiled by Kamalaśīla with the understanding that there were many mistaken views in Tibet at the time about meditation, how to train the mind in meditation. And so this addresses how to do it correctly.
Oh yeah, ta kaju de mandro yi ta kaju nganzo zo de ani dange ganzo klon lo xie de sonji kompo se ate jemme ba jemme ba la de yong mare ngori me ke ja mo xie cha ware
Sangye gi semdi ro.
sonji kompo.
Yeah. So remember from last week, our conversation was a little bit about how this resultant state of Buddhahood, this cannot arise in the absence of the correct causes and conditions. And then there was a discussion of those. If we had to sort of distill the causes of Buddhahood to their essence, we could say they are the perfect practices of method and the perfect practices of wisdom. And then connected with those, we have these two terms that we see often in this text, relative bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta.
다 그조 쇼주 세인에 대다 노지 대 그조 쇼주 세대 기바레스.
And so then, when we speak about bodhicitta and those associated method practices, this is usually what is emphasized in the term relative bodhicitta.
다 대도 쇼주 다대 쇼주 semba 가디쳐서나 그조 쇼주 세대 다 도모도라 다기요 아레스.
Whether a being is a bodhisattva or not, this is determined based upon whether they have actualized this relative bodhicitta or not.
다 그조 쇼주 세세나 맞은 된다 쇼주 세 도모도서나 다기요 아레스.
And so Geshe said, we wouldn't even have to say relative bodhicitta or not, because normally relative bodhicitta is what we mean by bodhicitta. So achieving bodhicitta, that is the mark of a bodhisattva.
다 손바도 간줄라 다 단단히 다 때때냐 때때도 유야요 와서 다 템보 전jo하면 다 가제 다 템보치르세요 야레스.
So we may have thoughts of bodhicitta ourselves from time to time. This may be something that arises within the mind, but the bodhisattva's bodhicitta, this is something that is stable, powerful, and unwavering. It's continuous.
단 jo하면 봐선 때즈 좀 와서 쇼주 semba 출로 동보아 되진 저 손도는 어서 만도 기우야레.
Kawane?
출로 중근에.
And Geshe says we can't say unchanging bodhicitta before a certain step of the bodhisattva's practice, because we know that the first of the 5 bodhisattva paths, the path of accumulation, is divided into the small, middling, and great. And on the small increment of the path of accumulation, the bodhisattva can still fall from his or her resolve.
다 디가 쇼주 세대 대바치비고 주고.
Yeah.
니지 첨보대 대바치비 리세바.
So bodhicitta is said to be the door through which we enter the Mahāyāna, and great compassion is said to be the way that we activate the Mahāyāna lineage in our mind.
다 쇼주 세 토발라 니지 첨보엘 토 기바테 다코 테소메바다 다 토아치 게아데레스.
And so this makes it very clear, and it is, we can say this with certainty, that in order to arise bodhicitta, we need to firmly have in place great compassion.
다 니지 첨보 쇼바 첨보니 다 디세 기발이 요하레스 요하레스.
And great compassion and great love, these two minds, great compassion and great love, right? These are said to arise at the same time.
다 쇼주 세 토비깔 다 tum바니 인에테 라요메 단다만다 나소 요하레스.
When this bodhicitta arises in the mind of a practitioner, they're at many different sorts of stages. For example, some have realized emptiness and others have not.
어디서와 다 대이자 다 대인을 다 tum바니 인에라케치나 대도 쇼주 세 뇨레 조기 요하레스 대다.
So the bodhisattva who already realized emptiness before arising bodhicitta, they can engage fully in the practices of ultimate bodhicitta, not just relative.
세 도버세 그럼 같은 데 된다 그거죠.
So this is a high level of practice.
다 토세한테 내려고 말이 쇼주 semba 파파 톨로토 테제 톨로토 그러마도 대도 쇼주 세 도해요 말이스.
And when we say achieve ultimate bodhicitta, right? This is how I translate the Tibetan word top. When we say achieve ultimate bodhicitta, this only happens on the bodhisattva path of seeing, right? So that's the third of the 5 paths. It's quite a high realization.
다 손지를 놓여가 다 공부니라고 다 권이 대도 쇼주 세 그조 쇼주 세 되니레스.
So these 2 legs that allow us to reach this city of enlightenment, these are the practices of relative and ultimate bodhicitta. Also,
어디다 와트핑 안줄 라자코티 대니 샤기 슈반다고 했잖아. 거기 자세 바로 있는 것도 왔어.
Śāntarakṣita gives the image of the method and wisdom practices, or we could say relative and ultimate bodhicitta as being the 2 wings of the bird, which allows to fly across the ocean of samsara and reach the shore of liberation.
나란다 그랬더니 거 요법기니라 거 자마.
Chama.
Niepa.
Yeah.
하고서로 niepa라고.
Konso niepa teso.
niepaten 거 자마.
Ale.
칼로서 게 자마.
Kalas chama.
그래서 강가를 고마또 돼서 가이사더니 그 파티는 고마서 그때.
Yeah, and as you'll remember, Śāntarakṣita, he was a quite extraordinary being when he was given, for example, a punishment to work in the kitchen and to sponsor milk for the assembly of monks. He was able to draw a cow on the wall and milk that drawing. Yeah, so he didn't have to like herd the cows, right? The monasteries, they had these herds of cattle for milk. He didn't have to herd the cows or anything. He could just relax. So yeah, Geshe told that story at length before, so we will turn to the text. Yeah, Shinedang Jowe Laktong.
Laktong ba che son chondo la gar wo ngang zo ndo chu was. Shinendo ta yo laktong ba she kin na jo be se yo no la no ba yin wan je che lung ge no nan de be ma me je te tem ba men ro.
So we are just starting where we left off last time. We are at the top of page 18. I'll read out what Geshe read. A yogi's mind will be distracted to various objects if he cultivates only special insight without developing on a calmly abiding mind.
So it
So Geshe said that, this needs some special explanation because it says cultivates only special insight without developing on a calmly abiding mind. But if we understand what the term special insight actually means, it's not possible to achieve special insight without calm abiding. So we need to clarify that here. So what we should say, we can sort of amend the words a little bit. Something similar to special insight, or a mind similar to special insight without developing calm abiding.
So the
reason why this, it's not possible to bring forth true special insight is because if we don't develop calm abiding, we won't be able to pacify distractions sufficiently to be able to hold that. So really the thrust in the text here is that we need stability in both calm abiding and special insight, right? Both are important. So it is possible to have both calm abiding and special insight, to develop them both. And the example here is that think that you are walking along a precipitous mountain road, right? So as you are walking along this precipitous mountain road, one part of your mind wants to make sure that you're not going to fall over the side of the road down the mountain. The other part of the mind is looking ahead to make sure that you are following the correct road to get to your destination. It's possible to have those two in place, both. So in this example, and this is a good example as a beginner trying to understand this, the ma masaya di shine ale tembo tagen ya lonchane. Right. So the mind of calm abiding is like the one that makes sure we are continuing to follow the road to reach our destination. The special insight is checking to make sure that we are not falling off the side or reaching a dangerous area. Yeah. An easier example maybe is to think of the image of a thangka, right? The mind that looks at the thangka and appreciates it fully and focuses on it, this is a mind similar to calm abiding. The part of our mind that's saying, that this Buddha figure has one head, has two arms, is this color and so forth, that is a mind that is similar to special insight.
세대 요와도 더요 말에 세 땜보지 따토나
If we are able to hold this mind of calm abiding that appreciates the image in its totality fully in a stable way, then other distractions or thoughts, it will be like that example of the minnows below the water. They will not be able to disturb the surface of the water.
어단드리스와 먼저로스
Mhm.
세요 넘어 영화지 류고 노난도 비 마메이나
Mhm.
류고 노로 잡에 마메지는 콜 류고 파스 대대데 시워트요 땜보데요 말이스
It will be like an unstable butter lamp in wind, right? So without calm abiding, it will be like an unstable butter lamp. So the instability means we can't see things clearly. That's the problem.
어다든지 이상한조 어느 제고요 저 같이 버릴 때는 유고요 같이 뭐 연바다 되게 제시요 된다
We can also see that this part of the text is explaining that while we need analytical meditation, and that is important, we also need stabilizing or placement meditation.
대위나 제세라와 이시전노와 션더 봉송아
Yep.
그래서 이시전노와 션더 싸워 먼저 때 따위나 니가도 자와 템바샤고
Mhm. Since clarity of pristine awareness, so that's, another way of saying wisdom, will be absent, these two, special insight and a calmly abiding mind, should be cultivated equally.
어다시니 세 템보 차차선을 하동요 같이 뭐 너는 니가 같이 뭐래서 갈래
So in order to have real special insight, right, we need to have stability and calm abiding, but both special insight and calm abiding are important.
네메메 다시니 듣게지나 때문에 지니 지본 다 세미파 주고 지본 거로 수자 가라왔어 당한조 대로스 때는 다 가르쳐가 다 된다 돈보 세 템보 돼야 돼 같이 뭐 돈보
So, it is important in the first stages of a meditation practice to develop some stability within the mind.
다시니 저는 고미사께져요 아래 시니 마드바 이나요 돈보 가제트도 세 템보 돼 같이 뭐
And so, here we're not even talking about the full-on sort of calm abiding, but just achieving some stability, some focus in the mind is very important.
템보 다 어zel레소나 드네 오다 하동 같이 뭐 드네 제바시야 같이 뭐
Once we achieve some sort of stability in the mind, it's then very important to start to use special insight, to differentiate, to analyze with that stability we've gained.
다테시면 다시니 듣기는 오대 주고 지본 거로 수자야 시니 만져 봐도
The practitioner who is really just trying to go all out to reach calm abiding, they are just going to do placement meditation until they reach that.
다 알게 좀 무슨 디스 다 디콘테 된다 실라 니가 로로야 토볼 로알라 실라 시네도 라도 니가 같이 뭐래
So to reach these higher paths, both calm abiding and special insight are very important.
디셔 드네 소소 다르라 하고 뭐 되는데 디셔 파파 윤선 양엘랜디 바다 콘데로와
Yeah.
뉴디근도 이사래 양엘랜디 바 체면도리 좀
Mhm.
年天呢，就那电视些别人么多的定眼子细切为活动，希腊群说咯，将军什么呢？就那同门就么啥的希腊去细切为活动，定眼子群说咯。电视些别人他这在的，现在都好多出版店别说咯，是干啥？现在个到钱呐，慢慢那个嘛些不知道，弄把多别，绿诺去谁要门着咯？
So therefore,
对不对？
um,
this
the Deshin Sheba Barajogin,
Yeah.
Deshin Sheba Chasawan Tontugireti Barajogin.
Yeah.
Therefore, the Arya Sutra of the Great and Complete Transcendence of Suffering says, hearers cannot see Buddha nature because their single-pointed absorption is stronger and wisdom is weaker. Bodhisattvas can see it but not clearly because their wisdom is stronger and their single-pointed concentration is weaker, whereas Tathagatas can see all because they possess a calmly abiding mind and special insight to an equal degree.
단这个对啊，是단年天都儒家有啊，那年天有那儒家路儒家有用啊，也是弄知道。
So Geshe said here, when we speak about the hearers, the Shravakas, we can understand that this includes the Pratyeka Buddhas, the solitary realizers as well.
他这都是离了我是个人，年天都儒家有呢，他从这个人查送啊，通通个嘛的，看人说的工作，今年是都点不要的呢，因为是啦。
So we can understand that in terms of these hearers and solitary realizers, right, they have a full accomplishment. ting에zen topsare duayene sherab
동보요아레스 이나요 시라 때뭐 자치 뭐 매아이자
어허.
군지리 내서 자송와 도도 말레스
sangegi riksena.
손지가 내서 사다 예된다만 요아라와 그수 뒤에서 예대
Ale. So it is said that these hearers and solitary realizers, they possess concentration and a measure of wisdom, but that wisdom is relatively weaker. So for example, they can't appreciate all of the qualities of a Buddha and so forth. Nga kongso sangi nangshin che tugi mare, sangi gi yunten tong tugi mare segido.
다 시라 주시로 세기도 왔어 다 손지 셈비가 다 예대도 말로 로자도 말로 손지가 다 예대 뭐뭐 통통 그래스 이나요 손지 노지 디세 지라 동반일 다 따진병을 고내서 자소 따야도 하고서 동반일 따진병 니가라 따와도 뇽도라
Yeah.
손지 노지 손지가 그수 뒤에서 예대를 따면도 봐 오다 드리기다 도 말해
kongso tompani nyamshak depe kapla roa dene denso nangshin.
오다 예대 노지도 말아 따 도그래 또 손지가 예대 다니 알아도 무슨 얘기
kale.
저기 선바 얘는 시라 자치 뭐 요아로 왔어 예대도 만다와 손지 그수 뒤에서 그 예대 자치 뭐 통도 그래스
Yeah. Yeah.
다도 뭐 될라 타네
Yeah. So a bodhisattva, right, their understanding is greater than that of a hearer in that they can appreciate the Buddha nature, in particular the Buddha's qualities of holy body, holy speech, and holy mind.
다 이나요 신내도 하도 차츠는 바 조매이자 또만이라 뇽바 잡아도 뇽도라
Yes.
다 손지가 그수 뒤에서 예대라 소바더니 따도 말해스
However, these bodhisattvas have not fully perfected special insight. Because of this, when engaged in meditative equipoise on emptiness, they cannot at the same time contemplate and appreciate the holy body, speech, and mind of the Buddhas and other qualities.
다 된다 시저가 바자 녀저가 바자 내가 요아레스 컨트롤 좀 더 담도 하래
Shinjip, Nyunjip, Shinjip.
시도
And this is because the bodhisattvas still have within their mind the shejib, the wisdom obscurations, sometimes called obscurations to omniscience. This is why they can't do those two things at the same time.
단저가 도와스 녀목이 내가 채워도 다 요아마레 된 녀목이 잡고 바자 되게 내가 채워 준 거야레스
So they're not, the higher level bodhisattvas, right? They're not experiencing the afflictions in a powerful way, but the latencies or the imprints left behind by the afflictions, these are still blocking them somewhat.
다 이나요 거기가 다 손지세마 파파이나 거기가 강에 최소 어느 시와 가와 나와 저와라서 받대니요 말다 디바체 강가 좀 와서 사와레스
However, we need to clarify Arya Bodhisattvas in terms of the samsaric experiences of illness, disease, old age, death, things like this. They, because they are Arya Bodhisattvas, are beyond those sufferings. Pagpa Jiangshi Sema.
손지세마 파파 다 든지지 장간도 동반이도 손지세를 쉬자야 될다 이제 손지 그거만 도와스 파발레자 소나요 거기시와 가와 나와 저와 강가 본로 요아레스
So this is why, right, we want to practice both emptiness and bodhicitta, because even before enlightenment, before full Buddhahood, if we can achieve the state of the Arya Bodhisattva, we will already be removed from the coarser samsaric sufferings of old age, illness, death, and so forth. So having this as an excellent destination, right, not trying our best to reach it, that's a little bit laughable, right? We're not so patient in reaching that. So, Milarepa has that famous saying, it was a fear of samsara that drove me into mountain retreat. But in retreat, having seen emptiness, I fear nothing at all. We can have that kind of experience. So if we recollect the benefits of achieving these things, this is really going to help us.
손지이나 신내도 하도가 니바 요도도 자리 대라되는 예저도 시저 강가 좀마서 사와이자 다 가를 따와 이나요. 디세 지라.
Mhm.
도마니라요 녀바자.
Mhm.
내서 가를 이나 내서 강갈 따도 야래.
So, with a Buddha, right, because they have realized calm abiding and special insight completely, because they have also completely cleared away the two obscurations, the afflictive obscurations and the knowledge obscurations, their mind is able to comprehend everything all at once. They can be in meditative equipoise upon emptiness and at the same time appreciate the Buddha's qualities, any other relative phenomena in the same moment. They are completely unencumbered.
어다 게제 뭐 어다 디송아스. 다 콘트르베.
Kundi rebe sena mare mare tanda kandisla gure
아동.
mare mare mare
맞다.
shinegi nupa de la tene roa
같이 가야 되더네. 진이게 또 지사야 되르베.
tetsuku shinegi topgi ni marlungi dire
진이게 또 하나 되는 리송아. 신이게 또지는 마멜류게 마셔 봐시는 라차임바. 엄바 또비 류노지 세요 먼저로 송지라.
So this describes the Buddha. Due to the power of calm abiding meditation, the mind will not be disturbed by the wind of conceptual thoughts, like a butter lamp undisturbed by the breeze. Deni lakdongdi?
라동께는 따왕님이 저마타다 봄비 연도하기 무시했대.
Special insight eliminates every stain of wrong views. Thus, you will not be affected by the views of others.
라동께 니바 차속 조사와 이자 연도하기 진내바세한테 뒤노유다 똑바요 말해.
So, because one has realized special insight, any view that could potentially be confusing or throw you off course, right? The danger of this is completely eliminated.
다 콘테레 나와 되면 돌레 저게도 신이 또지는 요 매번 알 티제래는데 신이 또지 요 매번 저 라동께는 르동자원 저 시순바 따보고
The moon lamp sutra states, by the force of calm abiding meditation, the mind will become unwavering, and with special insight it will become like a mountain. Therefore, maintain a yogic practice on them both. And so there's actually a beautiful verse about this in Lama Tsongkhapa's short Lamrim text called the Songs of Experience. Yeah.
세 어느 여 가는 미바 가는 걸 자나. 요 매바 아니 르노지. 아까 자나 요매 레용 보자 게마쇼 아.
Yeah. So the essence of what's being said there is that with this sort of ability, you can place a concentrated mind on any object, and that concentration will remain unwavering like a mountain. This is the power of that calm abiding. Yeah, and so this is the benefit of stability in single-pointed concentration. And in the same way, on the basis of this stability, the mind can also go to any virtuous object it wants to go to and easily be placed upon that. So when one has both calm abiding and special insight in place, this is the kind of profit that one comes to. So therefore, maintain a yogic practice on them both. This is the essence of the advice, that the yogi or yogini should practice both calm abiding and special insight. Initially, so we're in the section Common Prerequisites for Meditating on Calm Abiding and Special Insight. Initially, the yogi should seek the prerequisites that can assist him in actualizing calm abiding and special insight quickly and easily.
다 되지 않요. 게게 잘나 뜻이 오렌도스. 다 오나 신에도 하도 tani 자 첨부도 게하게 내서 이나 그 멜로디는 샤테서 tani 저는 용거 말아왔어.
So you might have a kind of question that arises. We've said that calm abiding and special insight are something very precious and valuable. Can I get calm abiding and special insight by doing enough pujas and rituals? No, you're not going to get calm abiding and special insight just by doing rituals.
신이 코로코로 지수 뭐 뭐요. 대저가래. 하도 코로코로 지수 가리나 대저가래.
Calm abiding has very specific prerequisite causes that one needs to amass to achieve it. Similarly, special insight has many prerequisites necessary if we're going to be able to bring it forth.
다 대라 신이 지수 공시나. 다 신이 그 지수 수사 지수.
So these are, we could say, I like the, how would I translate this? The next part of the text is the conducive conditions, the assembly of conducive conditions necessary for calm abiding.
텀비이나 니바동 사테가 첨부지레스 두는 뭐요레스.
So living in a conducive environment, right? This is very key, and that has many aspects to it.
다 일반 대화충와도 어느 초시바.
The next one, limiting your desires and practicing contentment. Not being involved in too many activities. Maintaining pure ethics. Fully eliminating attachment and all other kinds of conceptual thoughts. Yeah. Yeah. So we can see that some of them are put together, so we have a total of 5 in number. Living in a conducive environment, limiting desires and practicing contentment, not being involved in excessive activities, maintaining pure ethics, and eliminating attachment and other kinds of conceptual thoughts. So 5 in number. So even if you're not necessarily trying to achieve calm abiding, if that seems far off, if you just want a calmer, more stable mind, all of these things are very relevant. Dinding anso kanisla gare kala dang tulok dang den so. Yep. So for an environment to be conducive, it has to possess those 5 qualities. So the 5 prerequisites, I'm sorry, those are the 5 prerequisites. Now we have the conducive environment. Yeah. So the first one, prerequisites, 5 in number. So the next one are the 5 related to a conducive environment. The first, easy access to food and clothes. Yeah. So when you talk about a conducive environment, it's not always remoteness, it's practicality, right? We need to be somewhere where we can get enough food, enough clothing, water, those basics that we need to sustain ourselves. This is important. Yeah. Nielawas. Kementus. Yeah. Being free from evil beings and enemies. So those so this means that so these means that we are free from robbers, also from frightening carnivorous animals, lions, and other things like that. So the next one is the place has to be free from disease. The next one is it is a place with good friends who maintain ethics and share similar views. and it is visited by few people in the day, and there is little noise or disturbance at night. So these are the 5 qualities of a conducive environment. So that's part of the second set that relates to a conducive environment. The first one was the prerequisites. So now we come to the third. And you'll find actually that if you look at the Lamrim Chemo, the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment, it actually has the similar information as well. Yeah. So the next one speaks about what it means to have limited desires. So being of limited desires means not being excessively attached to many or good clothes, such as religious robes and so forth.
So the
person who's trying to meditate, right, if they can't be not always having desire for more things like nicer clothes and so forth, what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of projections and thoughts that arise within the mind, and that is going to make it difficult to develop calm abiding. Because what happens is we start to think of one thing we need, then we think of a couple of things we need, and then these thoughts increase and increase. That disturbs one's meditation. So the next one is the practice of contentment. So contentment and little desire, these often come together. And so contentment means always being satisfied with any little thing, like inferior religious robes and so forth. So whether you have a lot or whether you have less, a mind of contentment just means you're thinking it is enough, right? The mind is satisfied with what it has.
Yeah. Chula each doing what kaze me chembo to chembo yina.
So here it bears diving into the teachings of Aryadeva, specifically the 400 verses, and thinking about how he describes a wealthy person. Aryadeva explains that a wealthy and powerful person has more possessions, has more things of value, but because of that, right, this creates more worry and anxiety, and they experience more mental suffering than people of modest means. So then His Holiness, right, being a well-known person, when he was traveling overseas, he would sometimes be hosted by important or influential people. And he said, when you first met these people in the West, it seemed like they, had everything. It seemed like they had a really great life. But the more you talk to them, or if you look in their medicine cabinet and see the type of medications that they are taking, the more you realize that actually they are not really as happy as they appear.
So
Aryadeva notes this, right, about people of different means, that those who are materially poor, they experience a much more intense physical suffering. But those who are materially well off, they often experience a more complicated mental suffering. So Geshe is quoting the exact words as they appear in the 400 verses. A caveat here. someone may have a good level of material prosperity. But if they are able to cultivate a mind of contentment about it, it doesn't necessarily have to be an obstacle, just to clarify that. So there's a story, Geshe's not telling this whole story, but he's just getting to sort of the gist of it. That there was a king of a certain land who had sponsored a dana, some food offering to the Buddha, and then it came out that the Buddha thought that he was like the
Buddha.
Ale, sorry. Lamachi. Trobo Ale. Lama Mare.
Lama res.
Sanji Mare. Sorry. Not the Buddha, a high lama. So a high lama who was invited for dana, and how it went is that he had to dedicate the merits of that dana to the poorest person in the land. And when they dedicated the merits of that dana, he dedicated to the sponsor, right? So the sponsor was very upset. So Geshe said he told that story at length, so maybe he'll tell it again depending on time, but the idea is it's that lack of contentment that's the problem.
Not
involved in many activities refers to giving up ordinary activities like business, avoiding too close association with householders and monks, and totally abandoning the practice of medicine and astrology. So Geshe said if you're really going for calm abiding, this requires quite some renunciation, actually, because there's many things that you may enjoy doing that you have to give up if you're really going for it. And so if we want to be able to start developing that calm mind ourselves, maybe we can't do all of the things here, but we want to stop sort of our habituation of worry, our habituation of mental projection, and so forth. So we will now turn to the praises to the 21 taras. So I don't know, Dave, if you can bring up a picture, an image of white tara, the standard white tara with one hand like this, holding the stem of the Utpala, and the other one at the knee. If you could bring up a picture of white tara. Loso, yeah. Kotanda the party yeah. So that is Radupaya Droma. So last week, we spoke about the first of the 21 taras, swift heroic tara. So this brings us to the second of the taras, white as the autumn moon tara. So this is also known in Sanskrit as Tara Chandra Kanti. Tara Chandra Kanti. So the Buddha Tara, she takes these various forms, and they have different colors and so forth. The reason that she takes this various forms is she promised to help beings in whatever way they need, and beings have different particular affinities and capacities. Kambodi, di niparoa, karbodi. Yeah. Shadon sashi. Yeah. Domba siwo. Sebo. Right. And so her face is luminous, right? Like 100 full autumn moons. And it blazes with this expanded light that reaches all sentient beings and brings them benefit. And so her right hand, which is holding the Utpala flower, you'll see that it has 2 fingers together and 3 apart. These 3 mean Kunjusum. These 3 represent the 3 jewels of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha.
아까서와 어떤 지바 용도 니까는 지바 코인 지바 용도는 다 로바치기스.
And it also is a symbol that she, like the three jewels, has the power to protect from all temporary and ultimate fears within
아까서와
samsara.
다리샤 추지가 샤자세를 추경여도 도모인여도 어다가가티기스.
Her left hand, which is at her knee and facing downwards, this is in the gesture of bestowing siddhis. It is expressing that she will bestow both the mundane and the supramundane siddhis or attainments.
어단데그도와
Listen.
어다 시리테 때기다와 때기다와세를 차반바는 사르지 아포차니 오노카테 오 예레 만다와 지와르세비 아레 다와.
So the autumn moon, she's likened to the autumn moon because the autumn moon or the harvest moon is when it's full, it is said to be the moon that is the most radiant, the biggest and the most powerful. So that's why it is likened to an autumn moon.
까마 자초 뭐뭐 수비다 게라고 지게서도 된바다 던리세기도와스.
And the light rays are powerful, not just like the moon, but they have the power of 1,000 stars gathered together. So it's a gentle luminosity, but it's extremely powerful.
어다 지식가와 되다 링아 있어가다 내가 드와도 바자도 강가파 조마손에 봐. 다스 던리게다 내서 하레스.
The white moonlight complexion represents purity, that she has purified the negativities, obscurations, and their imprints completely.
어다 코로용 던리레 땡아로슬라이 메다 던리게스 실라강가 마티지요스.
So just as she has achieved all of those things, she also provides us with the blessing to achieve them ourselves.
시도 샤샤니요 구바니요 샤샤니요 샤지데 마중아티고 시도 고기와레 아니 드와도 아니 가리나 파메바조 그래서
제슨 로마 차상아티 디다고치 냠샷라 레도아.
구와지 마주케요레
말해요. 니가 될라이래.
야 다원은데 그 아래
야 담바 믹 듄든 소여를 완전 담나. 야.
어다도 그도와스 어다 야샤니 대지가침보다 가서 로마테 dilasa 디서 순지 강가 코콜라테니 다 용거야레스.
And so you'll also see the that there are kind of three buds of the lotus, one fully blossomed, but the other two, one sort of partially open and completely closed. These represent the Buddhas of the past, the present, and the future. So we offer prostration to White Tara.
토토게 강가토 아니 가로슬라마 강가실라 네서 강가테리 니바요 이자 던디게트네샤 타두기샤들 샤사기.
So also because Tara has achieved all of the attainments and purified the obscurations herself, we can go for refuge to her as an ultimate source of refuge. And this is why it is suitable to offer homage to her.
다 쓴바들와 쓴바들와
Yep.
샤자 생어치네 샤자 생어치네 시에지 베메샤는 노바제마 짐바 젠디 까도셔 제바소데시냐마.
So the next verse says, homage to you, Tara, born from a golden blue lotus. So this is Lama Zopa Rinpoche's translation. We're on page 7. Born from a golden blue lotus, whose hands are beautifully adorned with lotus flowers. You are the embodiment of giving, joyous effort, asceticism, pacification, patience, concentration, and all objects of practice.
다 센도 젠지 도마 세긴도와스 콜메라.
Yep. And so the name of this next Tara is Sergi Dokchengi Drilma, golden colored Tara. So in Sanskrit, that's Tara Kanakavarni.
세연발랑 뭐뭐긴다고 대즈니와스기아레스.
So Geshe said that actually in some commentaries it says that she is golden color with a slightly bluish hue. You visualize her as golden in color with a slightly bluish hue.
그래서와 다 당기된 노지 샤 베메샤는 노바제마 대하고도와.
Yeah, so that kind of yeah, so the hands are beautifully adorned with lotus flowers. That's pretty clear.
다 데리 다원아 던지겠더니 지스 도마디 샤차게야겠더니 코
So why do we want to offer prostration to this golden color Tara? What qualities has she perfected that make her worthy of homage?
어다 고로가 되니 슈도도 시긴도 왔어. 점바cen지 까도 쇼와 제바소데시 냐마세 어저 점메바 제메발라 되니 쇼와 말저 파시트 녀레시 발라 되니 추와데.
So this verse is very beautiful. It talks about giving, effort, asceticism, pacification, patience, concentration, right? So it's actually showing that she did not arise as Tara in the absence of causes. She arose as Tara through her practice of the 6 paramitas, the 6 perfections.
어다 되니 고로 되니 유아인 다 가로서 된데바 요네 대주도 녀레치야레.
So if we want to become like golden colored Tara, we should practice the paramitas as she has.
다 파시트에 점바는 다시 원도 왔어. 젠지 아니 까도 쇼와 세리 스투.
So Geshe said austerities here. Let me just see how this is. So what Rinpoche translates as asceticism, and so there's 2 in the FPMT translation. What the bottom one translates as austerities. Both are good actually. Geshe said it's a different word, but you can understand this as ethics. You can understand that ethics is being spoken about here.
그래서 어다 까도 까와데 붙어봐 이자 까도.
Yeah. So kalikapo dun. Yeah. So it's literally ka, which is like kalikapo, difficult, tup, and able. So it's able to do the difficult. This is a very nice way. Able to do the difficult. That's the practice of ethical discipline. Able to do the difficult. So that's why you see it translated as asceticism or austerity.
어다 먹게와 지 바차도 지 바파토마서 이들 리라고 말아와서 어다 때 강가 터봐 이자 까도 쇼와.
So, abandoning the 10 non-virtues and purifying their imprints is not an easy thing. And that is the essence of ethical discipline. Therefore, someone who can practice ethical discipline in this way is able to do the difficult. Patience, it's clear. Concentration, also clear. Yes. And a son-like wisdom, right? A son-like wisdom. So she possesses this son-like wisdom. Zupa samtin chuyul nima. So the son-like, I'm just trying to see if that's another translation. All objects of practice or meditation, her sphere, this represents wisdom in the 2 translations. Yeah. Loso, right. And so these 6 paramitas that are required to be a Buddha, right? Those 6 practices, right? Those are also required to become a Shravaka or a Pratyeka Buddha. It's just they're not combined with that ultimate wisdom and bodhicitta, so they do not become paramitas or perfections. So these 6 practices don't get this word paramita or perfection unless they are enhanced with Jiangshi Gisen Dang Yang Tabitawara. So if they don't have the assisting factor of bodhicitta, they cannot be referred to as paramitas or perfection. Because without bodhicitta in place, the practice of the 6 paramitas cannot be directed to defeating the self-cherishing mind and so forth. But those hearers still have, a quite sophisticated practice of these 6, even if they are not paramitas. So this verse of praise to Golden Tara reminds us that if we wish to become Tara, if we wish to achieve the state of completely perfect enlightenment to benefit sentient beings, this is not possible in the absence of the practice of the paramitas. And engaging in the various activities right, that are connected with generosity and the other perfections. It's very wonderful to engage in those activities externally, but we also have to remember that these are primarily mental trainings as well. They also have to be cultivated in the mind. Right. So, it's not that like realizing patience means that we change the external environment and we never meet anybody who makes us angry, right? Realizing patience means we develop something within our mind that we don't have that same reaction to those external difficult people. Yeah, so these are kind of nuances. Geshe said that on the debate yard in the monastery, they discuss these a lot. So in this way, we have done commentary on 3 of the 21 padas. So we will pause here after the golden colored pada. So Geshe said one of the really nice things you can do if you learn the names like swift heroic Tara, white as the autumn moon Tara, golden colored Tara, you can remember those names, and this will help you to recollect their qualities and to draw closer to them. So Geshe would just wanted to confirm what I talked about actually at the beginning of the session, but I just encouraged, because I think it's nice if you hear from Geshe directly. He said that, understanding that life is very busy, that people have different responsibilities. If you can't stay for the full 2 hours, please come for whatever you can. Of course, it's good to stay for the full amount, for the full experience, but whatever amount of time you can come and be here, whichever section of the teachings you want to come, you're welcome. The other thing that Geshe really encourages you to do, if you don't have this habit to enhance your understanding, is when you're at home, if you want to have a deeper experience of the text, read the text aloud and read it in sort of a clear and calm way. This will also bring you great benefit. There's many reasons to recite texts, actually, not just for the fact that it'll help stabilize our knowledge of the text, but also for the fact that just through recitation, we place many positive bakchak imprints within the mind stream. Of course, you have to be considerate of your spouse or your housemate or whatever, but generally, right, this is a very good thing to do. Yeah. So that Geshe, so Geshe is remembering a story related to someone reciting the Prajna Paramita, the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. Anyways, maybe no time to say it today, but the gist is, it's not good if your recitation causes you to fall into conflict with the people that share your space. So I just wanted to kind of mention those 2 things. So we will stop there with a mind lifted in rejoicing. Let us dedicate the merit.
Changcho semjo rinpoche maje panam jeju richi chewa nyamba meba yang gone gonde bewa risho tongni tawa rinpoche maje panam jeju richi chewa nyamba meba yang gone gonde Bewa sho jambe bao jidar gyamba tong kundu zambo deyon dejen de da kungi jesu da lo che gewa de da tamche rata ngo de su shebe gewa tamche ge Ngowa ganglai chodo ngapa de dagi gewe tsawa de gejo zambo choji rado ngowa gi Tangri rawe gowe shinkan pendant dewa maru jongwe ne chere ziwan tenzin jatso yi shabe si de bada dendera chi.
용인 주에서 총이 겨와다 또 첨보수하시 주스다 가와서 보시스다 디 네발라 데니다 셔와 도마메 번에서 벨레네 강가바 타바쇼 소마
We've been fortunate today to be able to engage in an accumulation of wholesomeness, which is complete in the beginning, the middle, and the end. Through the power of this virtue, may all negativities we've accumulated from countless beginningless lifetimes within samsara until now be completely purified.
소소근 대바요 반오지 어느 로조 노래 어 강가 다시 뭐야 보이고
Through the power of these merits, may all the spiritual hopes that we have for our study, for our practice, be able to reach fruition. So we'll pause there. Ale, listen. So if you can stay for questions, you are most welcome. And on that note, would anyone like to ask a question? It's always a little quieter when we have class on the Saturday as well. Is there anything from socials, Dave?
I'd like to ask a question.
Okay, I can hear a very faint voice. I'm going to turn my volume up. Can you repeat that?
I'd like to ask a question.
Now I can hear you well. Yeah. Okay, yeah, gotcha. Go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify a bit when you're talking about mind, sem, and you had also alluded to the term consciousness in the beginning of class. And at that point, were you referring to Nampara Shepa? Because I just wanted to know how the consciousness fits in with your practice of the mind. Is it just another term in this case, or is it actually something specific?
Yeah. So Geshe used 3 words today. He used sem, he used yi, and he used namshe.
Yes.
He used all 3 of these. So these are usually translated as mind. Yi is also translated as mind, although it's distinct in Tibetan. And namshe is the one that is consciousness or mental consciousness. So you wanted to know which of those he meant, or what did you want to know about?
Oh, I wanted to know, is the consciousness considered encompassed within the mind?
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So are they one and the same, or are they different?
Yes.
Now, so sem yamina yi dinso denchi kro.
Sem yi no shisum deji res.
So Geshe, I think you got that, Annie. You would have understood that, right?
Yeah.
The 2 words for mind, sem and yi, and namshe, dunchi kres. So one meaning.
Okay.
이네 시에게 다이나 난도 통통로 왜 이게 세 강갈 셈 세자라 되게 알아봤어. 이게 셈 강갈라.
이게 셈 강갈라.
다라 저거 알아대서 되지.
Yeah. So those 3 are of one meaning.
Okay.
But you have to be, it gets complicated when we start speaking about teachings where you're looking at the different types of mind, like Semdang, Semchung, mind and mental factors, then it gets more complicated. But for our purposes here, one meaning.
Okay, and particularly in the first text, it's just one meaning then in the stages of meditation.
Then gomrim barpa kapla nganso sem yi namshi dunchik samlutangna digiris. Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. No problem, Annie. Thanks for the question. Yeah. So, but remember when we talk about the mental consciousnesses, right? We
Yes.
have the 5 sense consciousnesses plus the mental consciousness, right?
Okay,
So when you
yeah.
start to parse things apart, right, they have different iterations. The sense consciousnesses, right? And
Mhm.
the mental consciousness. Wang Shenga dang nampa shepa. Namshi truk. Namshi truk sana. Yeah, then so Wang Shenga rwa. Yeah. So you can speak of 6 consciousnesses.
Yes.
In this case, just to be clear, what that means is the 5 sense consciousnesses plus the mental consciousness.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. I think I see a hand. Was it Greg or Martha first? I'm not sure.
So it would have been Greg. He's first.
It would have. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Greg. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So thank you for the teachings today. I have a question about insight meditation.
Yes.
So I often, when meditating, if I try to direct the mind towards an object, either analytical thought regarding emptiness or visualizations will arise and that kind of thing. And I'm always very suspicious when that starts to happen because I don't know if it's true insight or if it's just conventional, dependently arisen thoughts that should just be ignored. Right.
Gotcha.
So if I experience like a visualization or if I experience sort of analytical thought, should that be followed or should it just be let to pass as a conventional thought?
Dene ko samlutandang dire dua dene laktong gomjaya tabche shepe kabula rwa dene ngaronso di chegom dabochik sogo gire dua rwa gimsen dabo drogoya tabche chegire duas ine samsam denso samlutangna dene kandes lagore namyeng rang mares ine like suk gi nampa dang denso dramandra yongire dua se tabi nangshin rwa denso dapochik yongire dua jesik rangmari ine jesik dapochik yongire dua rwa denso yongna nganso karechegures di tak yapochik sigogire yangmena denso parshagores yangar chegomdro etapchegures. So the main thing, just to be clear, in the vipaśyanā, in the special insight, the main thing that you're trying to do is get that analysis to develop wisdom. But if you're having these experiences like these images are arising spontaneously, right? That can be a good sign, actually. It can be a good sign, but you don't want to then rest on that. You eventually want to go back to trying to develop your analytical wisdom. Yeah. Right. But whatever you're trying to achieve in the session, so say that you're trying to develop special insight specifically about emptiness, or saying you're trying to develop a method practice such as bodhicitta, you want to keep that as the main purpose, the main focus in your meditation. So even if these positive signs arise, don't just then go to them and lose track of that. Yeah. So we have it's very common when one meditates seriously to have these various experiences arise, and some of them may be auspicious and pleasant, and they may sometimes also be inauspicious or unpleasant. But the main thing is just to appreciate that these are on the level of experience and not to grasp at them. So we can accept them, we see them as nice, but don't make them into a big, huge deal. would be Geshe-la's advice. Hale pitsa champo maso. Don't make them into a big deal. Yeah. We have to be very intentional with what our object of meditation is in the session. That's really important for progress. Yeah. So, and to confirm this, you can look at many stories of holy beings. For example, Lord Milarepa had remarkable visions by any measure, seeing, ghosts, demons, yidam deities, and everything in between. And there was an occasion where he went to his Lama Marpa and related these experiences. And then Marpa told him, don't make such a big deal out of it. That's not a big deal. Focus on the ultimate purpose of your meditation. So that was Marpa's instruction to Milarepa. And so and so there's a similar story that Geshe is recollecting about Lama Tsongkhapa. Di Lama Tsongkhapa gi kalapre, di Lama Tsongkhapa gechu la laos. Right. So Lama Tsongkhapa also went through a period in his life where he was having many visions of the deities and so forth. And he went to one of his teachers and reported his experience. And then his teacher said, I'm not impressed by that. He's like, maybe it would be useful if the vision stayed for a while and you could ask the deity questions about emptiness. Then I'll be impressed. Otherwise, I'm not so impressed by that. Yeah. So there's many of these stories in Lama Tsongkhapa's full biographies, right? If you want to look into those. So anyways, that's his comments on that. Did you have a follow-up, Greg?
Just very briefly.
Yeah.
If a person is engaging in calm abiding meditation and is moving into insight meditation, it feels like when you start analytical thought, that it's just one thought following another, right? Which is kind of what we're told to avoid in abiding meditation. So I'm just wondering, what is the difference and how do you manage that transition without falling back into
Yes, no, I see. Then definitely that, because that's kind of what the text is saying to do. Yes, I got your question. Gomrim barpa nangro la roa nganso shine la tene laktong la drogo gire duas yine chirtang di tes kalikabo karin sena shine sena nganso yu chik du chik mutune dego gire dua yine laktong sena nganso yewa chia gisem samlo tang ye chik yore roa dene denso ni nyamdu kandes drogo res nganso shine dang laktong nyamdu droes kandes res karin sena chik dea re dua chik takche chia gisem dabo chik re dua denso nyamdu kandes drogo re.
Meta tedo jaje demores ota lilawo mares chene thaknyal do hatun gana kale kawarwas nganzo isetu kanga.
So Geshe acknowledges that this is very difficult, especially if the practitioner, if the meditator has been really focused on calm abiding and developed some facility in that, to then go into a vipaśyanā, into a special insight style of meditation. That is going to be difficult. So Geshe said for most of us, right? For most of us, what he would advise is to alternate between the two, to sometimes engage in a practice of placement meditation and to sometimes engage in a practice of analytical meditation or special insight meditation. This way, you are developing both those skills. So you could do it in different sessions, for example, like a session on calm abiding and a session on analytical meditation. Or in one session, you could alternate and have a certain part of the session dedicated to one and the other part of the session dedicated to the other. But Karin san that shine utsujam na maleb na rwa.
어떤
So there's a general advice from holy beings too that if we push, yes, thanks to everybody. If you need to drop off, that's fine. So glad you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. So if you, the problem here can be if you're just focusing and pushing on calm abiding, but you don't ever achieve that, then you miss out on all of the positive imprints analytical meditation is going to put in your mind. And so that's why for beginners, you'll find in the instructions of a lot of realized teachers that you do calm abiding, but your greater emphasis is on analytical meditation, actually. A lot of scholars say like that.
민가 같은 거 말로 지지시야 사이 안주가를 이나에 다 보게라 세라 이러와
Yeah.
뭐지 죽게 공고를 좀 말을 셔 두란 일에 사니라 아니 신에 오더 그냥 연다 오녀라 신에 나와지는 컨트롤스 테크놀로지 was.
At the same time, there's the caveat here, right? Geshe said he doesn't want to make people think that calm abiding is impossible. And he's reminding you of the story he told a couple of weeks ago about this teacher at Sera. And this is like within the span of our lifetimes. It's not like 500 years ago or something, who was engaged in the practice of 2,000 prostrations a day and then calm abiding meditation. And within 8 months, he reached the 8th level of abiding. So there's only 9 levels of calm abiding. So the 8th is very high. So this is achievable for some. Yeah. And it is said, actually, that he gave instruction on shamatha and calm abiding to his students, and many of them were able to achieve calm abiding as well. And that is possible for people to do, right? But maybe you have some level of exceptionality, those people. But for a lot of us, especially those of us who have, other life responsibilities, it's good to do both. It's good to have a combined practice where we do some analytical meditation and some calm abiding meditation. Geshe said he can't tell you exactly how to manage every increment of time, right? You have to decide, what do I want to put more time into? There's personal choice, but both should be there.
Okay, that's helpful. I still have a lot of questions, but I'm not going to answer them today. So
okay, yes, no, and there's always next week, Greg, and you can email also. No worries.
Okay, I need to spend some time, I think, but thank you very much.
No worries. Thank you very much. I think, Marta, you were next. Go ahead. Hello.
Well, I'm sorry. I apologize for my English, and I don't know if my question is right, but let's see.
There's no such thing as a right or wrong question, so don't worry.
So my question is the bodhicitta the main thing need for the total liberation of this humanity? So all humans need to develop it in their hearts to liberate all humans. It's like a job of all humanity. So we have to develop bodhicitta, so everybody will liberate. If we don't have bodhicitta, that will not happen. Or yes, or do you understand?
I think I understand your question, Marta. I think I understand. So you're saying if we want all beings to be able to achieve enlightenment, the main cause of this is us bringing forth bodhicitta. That if we all don't bring forth bodhicitta, all beings won't achieve enlightenment. Did I understand you right? Okay.
Correct.
Great. Yeah. Then ganso semshin tamche rwa sangi gopang drugores tapa tatu drugores labna rwa semshin tamche di drubiala ganso chat sangwa jangshu gisem kegore mato di soemenduis jangshu gisem gutsores labchogire bes rwa semshin reje rwa jangshu gisem kiene dene dela tene semshin tamche sangi gisala drotugire mato di tsores.
Men senche tonjin ro ala do ter was. Ha ka song.
Yeah.
Ta ngaro so do gre tombo.
Mhm.
Ta so ji se do tane tin wa za ta song jin do. Ane jene pa pen to xie ga.
Yeah.
Okay ji ge yo was. Do ya ter es yong zu si na.
So you're absolutely right from the perspective of for all sentient beings and for each sentient being to get to full liberation, as you called it, or complete enlightenment, bodhicitta is absolutely necessary. This is true. So for all sentient beings to reach enlightenment, we all need to bring forth bodhicitta. How this happens practically, right? This requires some clarification. Each of us on our individual level wants to bring forth bodhicitta, wants to reach enlightenment as quickly as possible, and wants to help guide sentient beings. So the idea is collective, but the application is individual, if that makes sense.
Pena so ji sem ba ka shi go we ka shi se chi me ta mo chen re do do. O kanga lo lo tu ma ni ma shi mo ge ko la ko de. Ta nge ge tu ma ni che to ba ta no le che shi ba so. Ane kanga pa ko ro so shi ba zan ta kangel to so le is.
But also, don't forget the other cause, which is the wisdom realizing emptiness. So how does a bodhisattva contemplate that? The bodhisattva, he or she thinks all sentient beings remain circling within samsara due to a lack of knowledge about emptiness. I must come to a complete, unmistaken knowledge and realization of emptiness so that I can share that understanding and help lead them to enlightenment. So one can think like that.
O ta te shi ko so ji se la yo so no to ya re shon ba chen bo ni ji chen bo kanga ta ta so no to ya was.
So you've got wisdom there, but that way of thinking also incorporates love, also incorporates compassion, also incorporates bodhicitta. So they're all there.
O ta ti ge so so ge da no le che to ron do ya te mo do ya ta kanga to chen bo chi so ya re stand de.
Yeah, and when we think in this way, when we bring those in together, that enhances our practice. That enhances our aspiration. That makes it more powerful.
O ta yen do ndo do mang do se ta de ko ko ki la ya te re to bo shon ba shi ni ji shi ta ne o ro ma ji ta ko ro so do ko ya was.
You know, and so collectively that's what needs to happen. But on the individual level, right, we know that this happens in stages from the teachings, right? We learn about these minds, we develop them. As we develop them, we draw closer to our enlightenment, and then we can help others.
O so so chi ba re kan so do ko ya pa shu chi ba re do to chi ba re.
Yeah. The stages and realizations that each of us need to achieve enlightenment, that's shared by everybody. We all need to develop the same minds.
Sorry, but that means it's like the bodhicitta is the first step, because you see the humanity, most of people, for example, in their little groups, they just think about the happiness for themselves, for their people, but they don't think about the whole, you know, the liberation of everybody. So maybe the bodhicitta is the first.
The first
step.
Yes, no, I understand you. Yep, I understand. Nganso yine Jangshu gisem rimba tambo labnas halam digire karinsena mi mangchewa koronso matok samlo tangi omares roa semshin yenda kola chikyam sanglo tangi menduas dene semshin tamshe sangi gopang yartigores dene so tambo Jangshu gisem dapo kiego gire duas.
So so le se ge yo yen da le se.
So are you saying that like collectively we all need to bring forth bodhicitta? Are you saying for the individual, like you need to bring bodhicitta as the first step? Is that what you're saying?
What I try to say is that the people, we live in the egoistic, most of the humanity just think about themselves.
Yeah.
And
No, this I understood. But to break free of that, you're saying the first thing that each person needs to do is bring forth bodhicitta. Is that correct?
Yes, to have that information to understand the concept of bodhicitta.
Yeah. No, I've got you. Mi mangchio halepe rangjin sapo yin sang tambo jangchu gisem kola tets hama konana dene yargi droe omare sangidu sa.
Ya te do re den bo res. Bo som ba zum bo shol tre to ya res. Ne te na za tane shon ba chen bo ni di chen ba ba ko ya.
You're correct, right? And bodhicitta is not going to be the first part of that process. First, they have to think about loving kindness, right? to reduce the self-centered attitude. Once they develop that sort of loving kindness and attention, just developing attention towards others, then you can have love, compassion, and from that you build towards bodhicitta. And moving out of that total attitude of self-concern, it just starts with looking past ourselves and thinking, like, when someone does this to me, this is how I feel. So how does it feel to others if I do this to them, right? It's having that awareness of the experience of others. Huh? And Geshe thinks that really the first step, practically, Marta, is just this mind of loving kindness. Because when you start to live with this mind of loving kindness, you see that right away you're happier, actually. And also you're able to bring a little bit of happiness to the people around you. So this can be the first step. And then on that basis, right, you've got that foundation of loving kindness, of love and compassion, and then you're going to be able to bring forth that bodhicitta in a really meaningful way. Okay. Thanks, Marta. Thanks, Marta. Yeah, I think, Dave, you might have a social media question.
Yeah, we have a question. Yeah, so Joy DeWitt is asking, so first of all, she's many thanks for leading the meditation, particularly at the beginning. Then she asks, what do you eat to stay in a state of harmony and peace and love?
What should you eat?
Yes.
Okay. Then nganso semgi shide roadene jampa dangninje yapo deala nganso kala saya kandes chik sogres kala gi riksaya yaga kareresa. So Geshe is actually saying to Joy that this discussion is going to come as we move through the text stages of meditation, because it talks about how when you're trying to develop concentration, for example, you don't want to eat either too much or too little. So eating just the right amount is one of the key things that we need to pay attention to. So Geshe says also you don't want to eat foods that are too heavy or oily. And he says generally he does have to recommend a vegetarian diet. He says he himself, he is vegetarian, he recommends a vegetarian diet. The other thing is he realizes not everyone can do this, but if you can have the evening meal not be your main meal, but rather maybe lunch be the main meal, this is preferable, because when we have a heavy evening meal, this is going to shape our sleep cycle and other things that is not necessarily conducive to meditation. So you'll know this actually, that it's a minor rule, but one of the rules for monks or nuns is that you're not supposed to take a full meal after lunchtime, right? This is in the Vinaya. And so the Buddha had a reason for giving this rule, actually. Eating a heavy meal, it makes the mind heavier. It's going to make it a lot harder to fall asleep and get the sleep that we need. It's going to, it can also activate the afflictions, like particularly at nighttime, if we eat a heavy meal, attachment, it can feed into attachment. So there's many reasons. But Geshe also said, like, he doesn't want to be dogmatic about it, because he also realizes every person is different, right? We react to different foods differently. So you have to see for yourself which ones are helpful for you. And also, in terms of portions and things, what's enough to sustain you. So in this way, it's a little bit individual. The thing too is it has to be enough too, right? Too little is also not good. Too little or too much, this can throw the elements out of balance. When the elements in the body are out of balance, this can create mental disturbance. Anything else, Dave?
That's it.
That's it. Okay. All right. So then TJ Chela. So Geshe said, announcement for next time, trailer. He's going to tell a story next time that relates to Tara and how to supplicate Tara. So if you are into that, then we will see you next Sunday. A way to supplicate Tara for our normal life activities, lifespan, and things like that. So he will share this in the next session. So in the meantime, have a great week, everybody. And if you're free, we'll see you next Sunday, maybe.